Hey, Pastor Ray Barnett here with you. Glad that you could be with me here on the Oasis. And as always, I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you're watching this broadcast. Today, I am pretty high up on a hill at what is known up here as the ORISVILLE Shrine. It's pretty well known. You might not have heard of it, but it's it's a big, huge Catholic shrine that is dedicated to Jesuit missionaries that came here, well, of course, at the beginning of the country, and were killed for their faith as they tried to bring the faith of Christ to Native Americans. Massive shrine, lots of people visit it. If I had the opportunity, which I don't at the moment, I could show you around. Maybe I can give you a little bit of a glance at the landscape. I don't know how well this will come out, but down below, and you can't see it because I'm not up high enough at the moment, is the Mohawk River. Maybe next time I come up, I'll be able to show you. So we haven't been up here in quite a while. For those of you who've been with me for a few years, we haven't been up here in quite some time. Beautiful place, lots of solitude. I tell you this all the time, but you know, upstate New York is really, really beautiful. If people ask me, where you're from, and say New York, and they just immediately think New York City. Many people have no idea how beautiful it is in upstate New York. It truly is. All right, you know what? Every once in a while, I'm sure that you do this. You go to your primary care physician or your cardiologist or whoever you go to see, and you get your annual checkup. That's usually right at the primary care, right? And I think it's time for us to have a checkup. I think it was a few weeks ago that I asked you this question, like, how's things coming? How are you doing? Now, obviously, there's no way for me to ask you particular questions and individual questions, but I want you to ask yourself. For those of you who have been with me some time, some of you are new or still picking up new subscribers, so it'll be difficult for you to gauge any progress till you've been with the broadcast for a while. But I want to just ask you, how are you? How are you making out? How you coming along? Some of you communicate with me via comments here on the on YouTube. Some of you contact me in private via email, and I have to say, and I've been telling people, there's been some great testimonies of progress made. Now, I'm not going to share them because some of them were in private, so I'm not going to, betray that trust. I don't know that it would be a big deal if I did share it. I'm just not going to do it. But a lot of you have been making some very, very good progress. I mean, really. Well, let me tell you. Let me say it to you this way. I've told you before, like doing these broadcasts, I actually enjoy doing them. And I like the fact that, I know that I'm helping some of you, and some of you doing really, really great, as I just mentioned. But the reason I'm not doing them is because, well, I'm kind of bored and I need something to do. I'm usually never bored. Between my wife and I, we're never lacking for, like, what do we do now? What do we do today? It's a busy life. But to get back on topic, what kind of progress are you making? I would really be interested to know if some of you haven't been making much progress. The reason being is that perhaps I can address your issues if you're specific about them, or maybe just go over, and I keep telling you, that I'm really unable to cover the amount of material that we've covered in the last 2.5 years. This subject is very It's very broad. There's a lot to it. So I give you these little exhortations and little teachings, and they come in installments. But maybe there's some areas that I can go over again because it's of concern to you. You know, could be anything from why do I have panic attacks? If it was a question such as why am I depressed, that could be a bit involved. But anyway, I just think it was time to ask you, how are you doing? How are you making out? You're making progress? Do you feel like you're making progress? I know that some of you are, because again, you've written to me and told me. But how about the rest of you? Are you making progress with your symptoms? Are you finding that they're starting to dissipate? That's the whole purpose of this channel, is to dissipate nervous symptoms, the panic attacks, the depressions, the palpitations, the sweaty hands, the sweaty underarms, the chest pains, the various muscular pains, and so on. That's the object, right? To get rid of these things, not to endure them, but to get rid of them. And I would be curious to know just how you're making out, how you're doing. So if you would be so kind as to leave me a comment in the comment section, I'd appreciate it. You can also email me at TF, as in Frank, TFT. Well, actually, T as in time, F as in for, and T as in truth, TFT, at time4, and that's FOR, timefortruth.com. So it's TFT at timefortruth.com. And if you want to keep your comments personal, private, that's fine. And you can email me there. But I am concerned about how you're doing. Again, to say it again, I've been telling people who I know, maybe I'll be leaving my house or whatever, and I'm just talking to someone. I say, well, I gotta go do my show, and someone say, what do you do? And I tell them about the Oasis, and some are expressing interest in it. But what I always accent is the great progress that some of you are making. That's very, very encouraging. So I'm kind of like interested in the rest of you, because I hear from a certain few all the time, which is good, and I still want to hear from you. But there's a lot that I'm not hearing from you, and just was wondering if you're making progress, getting something out of these broadcasts or not. So do me a favor and just leave me a comment as to how you're making out, how you're coming along. Also, you can comment as to issues that you're, walls that you're running up against that maybe I have not addressed on this broadcast. Obstacles again, or sticking points where you just can't seem to make progress. Any of these things, you could write to me either in the comment section or at the email address that I just gave you, TFT at timefortruth.com, and express your concerns, express your frustrations, whatever. I know that some of you are dealing with serious mental health issues, so that would be a place in private, at the at the website or the email. That would be a place to address, what are you going through? Because again, it may give me some idea of something that I may want to address or need to address. Now, one more thing before I go. I did share with you, or I just said to you, some of you may want to hear my story and what brought me to Christ and what brought me to be able to know so much about this subject. And a few of you expressed interest, and it has been quite a while since I've shared my story. So I'm working on it. I'm trying to think just how to do it. I mean, like I said, I could stay on the broadcast for an hour, but from what I understand in life, people can't tolerate that much. In my church, I preach for 1 hour solid without apologies. The people who come want to hear. Some don't. But anyway, I wouldn't take up a whole hour on the show. but I'm trying to think that through. So that's still on the burners. I also thought of this too. We talked about it some time ago, maybe 2 years ago, about doing a live broadcast. We pick a time, pick a date, obviously, and some of you can actually, I'll give you the Zoom, number. We'll do Zoom, and we can actually have not only a live broadcast, but we could have a discussion. So, if that interests you, let me know, because that will take a little bit of thought too. Most of these things I'll have to go to my office, sitting in the library where I know I'm not going to get interrupted to do that. So I need your feedback. I need, or I'd like to have your feedback as to how you're doing. If I already know that some of you want to hear my story because you haven't heard it. And if you think, a live broadcast would be helpful, then, I'd entertain doing that too. Looking for you to help me with some ideas so that we can keep this broadcast, what's the word? Well, it's always relevant because the subject doesn't change and the answers don't change. I want to keep it like contemporary and kind of, refreshing. All right, so let me pray for you today, and let me just ask God to help you, especially those of you who are really struggling. So, Father, I pray for my friends, and I ask you to help them and to share your peace with them, as we talked about this week. Give them the peace of Christ, and let them be unmovable in their faith. And most of all, deliver them for their destructions and their afflictions, I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so I look forward to hearing from you, to get back to me on the things that I've asked you, and we'll take it from there. Weather is absolutely gorgeous today, 73 degrees, very mild breeze here at the ORISVILLE Shrine. And Lord willing, the weather's supposed to be pretty good for the next few days, week or so. So again, I plan on being with you here on the Oasis. And as always, I just remind you to make sure you let the peace of Christ dwell in your heart. See you tomorrow, right here on the Oasis.